All right, peace, 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 peace. Welcome to Show Improve. I'm Aki Ekra, but like always, I got to make sure I multitasking. Um, 1 second. Let's see. Should be okay. It is. There we go. Let's see. Okay. So, um, well, in this installment, you know what I'm talking about, or whatever, we gonna follow up on our talk with Carthage, but part two. So, okay, give thanks, Emma Yakira Eden. All right, so now that we got that out the way, so before I do basically anything, well, I'll show this right quick. Um, okay, that worked. All right, well, that's what we're talking about. But to answer um Choti's Maria question from last strong. She wanted to know their religion and um, coincide with politics for the Carthaginians. Although religion does play a intricate role in Carthaginian culture, no, it didn't. um, if it wasn't by money, if it ain't by dollars, it don't make sense. It was really more about money, trade, and the most money you had. Because also you have to understand that these savets and senators also could still be wealthy traders and merchants and things like that. So that's mainly what um, drove them was, economics in the political arena. Economic, like I said, economics and merit. You know what I'm talking about? So we got that out the way. I just wanted to answer the question, but in the Anu way and vision, it says, in order to move forward as a community, there must first be divine revelation that compels a congenial congealing of method and behavior. This revealing of heavenly intention keeps all involved from having behaving in a way that is riotous and self-sabotaging, which is basically foreshadow of what's about to happen. You know what I'm talking about? Um, all through this, all through this era or time or age for Carthage. You know what I'm talking about? So now we're gonna talk a little bit more about the Truceless War, right? So as I said last strong, you know what I'm talking about? Let me see. Um, peace, Jeremiah. Peace, peace, Maniah. Peace, South the G, South the Girl too, but South the G. Peace from me. Okay. So in the Truceless War, the Mercenary War, right? The mercenaries were rebelling not only on mainland Carthage but also on their territories like Sardinia and Corsica. And so what happened was they would send um, Carthaginian forces to quell the rebellion, right? The issue was, at least in Sardinia, the Carthaginian forces that went there ended up joining the mercenaries. you know. And so they had to send another force for that. And what happened was that the mercenary bands in those areas sent a letter to Rome asking them for help. Now, first Rome said no and ignored it, but then when they kept on doing it, they went there and quelled the rebellion in Sardinia and Corsica. And because of that, um, Sardinia and Corsica ended up being Roman territories. All right. And while that was happening on the mainland, like I told you, there was rebellion there, and the people that are quelling that rebellion is Hamilcar Barca and Hanno, which ceases all of that, and that pretty much quickly ends the mercenary rebellion or the mercenary war. But you know what I'm saying, like I say, they ended up losing their territories. You know what I'm talking about. So, like I said, Rome gained Sardinia and Corsica, right? And so, um, oh, peace, man, Master Minglet. So they lose Sardinia and Corsica, but then, you know, Rome takes that off their hands, and so they say, oh, since y'all got to give us Sardinia and Corsica, plus you got to pay us, 1,200 talents of silver for pain and suffering, because So they didn't happen to do that. See, they keep on getting the story. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, peace, I guess it. But they keep on getting distorted. you know, and that's what keeps on happening. But like I said, they lose those two territories. You know what I'm talking about? But of all of this, Hamilcar Barker seeing this, and he he tells his son Hannibal, makes him, go to the temple, do a ritual saying, all your life you'll be an enemy of Rome. So that's what happens. But his three sons are Hannibal, Hasdrubal, and Mago, right? And they, that family, they go up into, Iberia or Hispania or Spain, and they expand that part of the colony, Carthaginian colony, up north. So that's what's happening there, and eventually, Hamilcar went eventually die on campaign, but um was it all the rebellion? Well, I can pull up here. Was it all the rebellion that contributed to the decision's need to outsource military resources? Um, I would say to you, no, because they've had the outsourcing of the military before the rebellion. Because it's like this. Because I explained this last round with Rome. Rome had you can only be like a landowner or noble in a sense to join the Roman army at one point in time. Then they change all of that and say, "Oh, you don't have to do that. You could be a commoner and join the Roman legions." With Carthage, it's not like that. They don't force their citizen or allow or recruit from their citizenry to join the Carthaginian army. There's one aspect, like when the first penal war happens, they literally have to use mercenaries because they feel that their own citizens wouldn't really be able to actually combat Roman forces, basically saying that they soft as well. They just soft. We just say it like that. They're soft. They never really had to train for war. You know what I'm saying? So that and when you also have to not just outsource your military, not from a mercenary standpoint, but also through tribute. Because remember, they're getting tribute from like Mauritania or and Numidia and Libya. They're getting their troops from in that aspect. You know, that even gives less incentive for your own citizenry to join the military. So the rebellion happens, or the rebellion contributed to, I would say, the stagnation of not being innovative when it comes to the Roman military. Remember, they just getting out of the First Punic War, right? And you would think like, okay, and even during this mercenary war, you'd be like, okay, we need to stop, using mercs because stuff like this happen. We need to quit doing that. We need to bring in our territories into a Carthaginian banner, making us all Carthaginians in a sense, like Rome did. You know what I'm saying? But they don't do that, and because of that, because they don't really bring a united front between all their own territories, or a united cause, or unity among the people. Everybody still sees themselves as something else. I'm a Numidian, I'm a Libyan, and they don't see themselves as being one under, Carthage, even though you're a Carthaginian territory in a sense. But yeah, that I would say that, that that decision was there before the rebellions to outsource military resources, you know. So, um, so now I just want you to pay attention to these names, right? You got Hamilcar, Hannibal, Hasdrubal, Mago, and where they all come from. I deity Baal, as you can see, it says Lord and Master Owner. Melkort, another deity, which means King of the City, and the Nick Barker surname, you could say, which actually started out as a nickname for Hamilcar. You know, I will, and I will also say that reason why religion sort of doesn't pay a role in politics is because Carthage would change like their principal daily more than once. You know what I'm saying? One point in time is Melkort. One point in time is Baal. One point in time is Tanit. They switch principal deities for the city. So that's another reason. But if you pay attention to those names, like you got Hamilcar, brother of Melkor, which what basically what that means, brother of the king of the city. You know what I'm saying? Or you got Hannibal, which is the grace of the Lord, grace of the master. You know what I'm saying? Then you got Hasdrubal, which is, the Lord helps, or, things like that. And you got Mago, which can mean shield or magician. But the point is that these names sound like, other names, just from a different nation, Samuel, Mikhail, you know, um, Raphael, one uses a lot of ball and whatnot. The other one uses a lot of L, you know, L and Yah, but you can see similarities in that retrospect, You know what I'm talking about? So that's another reason why I put those names up there, just so you can understand what all that entails. Because I remember Chief saying, basically all all these deities is number warlords. It was like they do got a lot of lords in their names, you know what I'm saying? And that just proves what all that is. You know what I'm talking about? So, but yeah, I wanted to show that. So now, we get into Hannibal in the Second Punic War. Basically, everybody, says that Hannibal's the aggressor because he laid siege to Saguntum, which is, a city in Iberia or Spain, and basically that's what starts the war. You know what I'm saying? And his, basically his never-ending offensive campaign. Because something you get, in a sense, Carthage during war is not really that aggressive. Even in their battle tactics, they're not really aggressive. Like I say, they try to tire the enemy out in order to win. You know, based on their formations and things like that. But here you have Hannibal, who's now leader of the army, that was loyal to his father, and he takes that army and goes on, the offensive, and he goes on the offensive through, Gaul and his famous, I'm talking about crossing of the Alps. He has, basically 37 elephants with him. Now, doing this crossing of the Alps, I'm talking about, he does meet like Gaulish tribes and things like that. And he, offers them, to join with him. Some do, some don't, and ambush them. That's another reason why this crossing is very dangerous, not just for the mounts in this region, but also because you're getting ambushed by these Gaulish tribes, which you offered, to ally with and things like that. So he suffers casualties, but he still makes it to, Italy, and things like that. And even though he suffered these casualties, he still wins. You know what I'm talking about? He still wins, and still able to have some elephants, 20 of them, but he's still able to have some elephants in that retrospect. You know what I'm talking about? Which is sort of key, so all right. Now in the Golden Age of the Moors, which is a book, um in their bitter, prolonged, and increasingly desperate struggle for national independence and control of the Western Mediterranean, the Carthaginians utilized Moorish troops as integral elements in all of their battle campaigns. As I said before, what I'm talking about. Like the, these Moorish people, um, are going to be integral in the winning of, the wars for Hannibal. When he loses those people, I told you about that in the meeting Capper. But if he loses those, those people, that's when they start to lose. So it ain't the mercenary forces they got. It's basically the bulk of the army, that they basically get, from tributes from these states, um, that actually helps them win, But pay attention to this. Really pay attention to this, because if you look throughout history, you'll find out, or in some parts of history where you're in, you're always used as mercenaries, part of somebody's army, and that's all you do is win, kick people butt. Just do research and pay attention. Like, man, every time, we always hired as mercenaries and we always fight somebody else's fight, but we win though. We are integral part, in the winning of battles and things like that. But that is very key to pay attention to, if you ask me, because some people won't tell you that. But I mean, hey, before there was Tuskegee Airmen and the 54 Massachusetts, and things like that, you had you were doing this, what I'm talking about. So I like, you can't fight because you can't. But yeah, peace, South Ireland, South Harbor. My apologies, but yeah, Emma, you keep, we some goons, but that's hey, even Jesus tells when you serve, warlords that are, jealous and vengeful, and they tell you to spare nothing to the sword. I mean, hey, you put in that work. You put in that work hard. You know what I'm saying? That's how he is. But you sort of also see that because also, you're also nomadic, sometimes, because you face these, hard elements, even if it just ain't you, if you pay attention to nomadic people, you know, they some hard people. You know, they are some, they really are some goons. You know, because their life is so rough. You know, I love drama so much because my life is so rough. Okay, but but yeah, that does happen. But you know, some, like I say, you got to collect the dots to connect the dots. You know, but yeah, you gonna see that mercenary element. You know, more than one time in history. You know, in that sense. You know, but yeah. So we gonna get to I Master Mainlet's part, you know what I'm talking about, the one he wanted to talk about, which is the Battle of Cannae. Now there are many great battles of Hannibal's, right? But all military historians and scholars, you know, love the Battle of Cannae. You know, basically Hannibal is outnumbered, and he used this grand strategy to basically rout the Romans. You know, which gives them one of the greatest victories in military history. You know, so if you look at the picture, I'm gonna have more than one anyway, but you can see the Roman legions, you know, in this, you know, three column formation. You see the basically the Roman cavalry off to the side and things like that. And you see, you know, basically the Carthaginian and Numidian cavalry off on the wings, you know, whereas Hannibal and his, you know, mercenaries and infantry is in this, like, well, it is a, we're just gonna say house formation. You know, and one thing people want to let you know, at least Hannibal's on the front lines fighting as well. He's not in the background, you know, he's actually on the front lines fighting. You know, and things like that. Look at the numbers, son. Exactly. Like you can't make this up. That was a route. You know what I'm saying? That that war was around. But if you look at the Battle of Cannon, you can see from this picture how it all starts. You know, the Carthaginians basically fight these legions and they ease back while the Numidians and Carthaginian cavalry on both wings rout, you know, the Roman cavalry. And then by that, they go in from behind the Roman lines and end up encircling and routing the Roman uh, army. You gotta understand something as well. You know, even though the Romans, you know, are good infantrymen, their cavalry ain't that good. just saying, they're not known for their cavalry. At least not at this point. They're not known for their cavalry. So that was a weakness basically being exploited. You know what I'm talking. You know what I'm talking about, and it works. You know, and you know the cavalry gets done and everything. You know what I'm talking about? And he wins, like I said, the greatest victory. Like he encircles them. You obviously realize basically no one's pretty much survives. You know, in a sense. I mean, you take prisoners. One thing you can say about Hannibal is his humanity to other Roman generals. He doesn't kill them or anything like that. You know, imprisons them, but releases them and send them back. He is humane in that retrospect. But yeah, man. Um House formation. Yeah, bro. Yeah, bro. You know what I'm talking about. But because of this grand battle, I mean, it literally sort of brings Rome to its knees, and they are able to really go to Rome. But the fact that, you know, Hannibal sees, like, you know, he goes to the city and he's like, well, we don't have no siege weapons, so we can't really invade, you know, lay siege to Rome because we don't got no siege weapons. And here's the immortal, basically, quote or words that his Numidian commander, cavalry commander, Maharbal, see, ball. You know, Maharbal tells him, you know what I'm talking about. You know, he says, you know, You know how to win a victory, a great victory, Hannibal, but not how to use it. You know, which what that says is that yeah, you know how to win, but you don't know how to exploit your victories. You know what I'm talking about? Which people, through well, armies throughout, you know, um, history sort of figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Um, Another case in point of a probably a good victory, but wasn't exploited. Pearl Harbor, because that's more relevant, or at least closer to home. Pearl Harbor. Here you go to Hawaii. Japanese go to Hawaii, get this big victory. Catch the Americans while they sleeping. You know what I'm talking about? Like bomb their boats. Make import. They just sleep. You catch them literally while they sleeping. You know what I'm talking about? And what happens? They can't exploit that victory in the sense. And anything, it just really it's the beginning of the end because now the Americans gonna go, you know, coming to fight, But it was a good, a good battle, good battle sense. You know what I'm talking about? That's one. You know, um, let's see. Hmm. What's another good one that's that wasn't exploited? Mm, let's see. Um, Dang. I don't. Well, Napoleon Austerlitz. Austerlitz was good. Could he exploited that to really make the Russians surrender? He probably could. He probably could. In a sense, he probably could. But yeah, that's just that's just a few examples because of that, because he didn't want to lay siege. And I mean, this great victory even gives him the cooperation of Southern Italy. Like they rebel under the Romans. You know what I'm saying? This newly acquired, southern, the southern part of the boot. They like, oh, we'll stand with you too. He gets, cooperation from them, but he doesn't lay siege to Rome. You know what I'm saying? Instead, he goes back to well, sends one of his brothers back to ask for reinforcements from Carthage. You know what I'm saying? Even though he won this great victory and things like that, but no cooperation from the from the Senate, from the Carthaginian Senate. They don't send him reinforcements, even though he's like, man, we can get this popping, and really finish this if you just send reinforcements. And that's the issue. You know what I'm talking about? Then we have, the Scipios, right? Now there's Scipio the Elder and Scipio the Younger. You know what I'm talking about. Um Now Scipio the Elder, you know, um he ends up getting defeated by Hannibal, going to battle with him and ends up getting defeated by him. You know what I'm talking about? But Scipio the Younger, um, hold on, let me see what. Let me put this on screen. Okay, I learned about Canine from the story of Tanya the Evil. They utilized this strategy inside of Hannibal. This was a modern anime showing how iconic that false withdrawal tactic was. And you know what? I know that ain't the one. Because here I was like, oh, it must have been that time when she was acting like a little kid, like, hey, come out. We scared, we were so terrified, No, I don't think that's the one. But yeah, they did use that in the anime. You know what I'm talking about? For those who don't know, it's there's an anime called the Saga of Tanya the Evil. It's basically about this Okay, this guy, this modern day guy, he ends up getting killed and getting basically transmigrated into a little girl called Tanya, and basically in a setting or period setting where it's like World War II, and he's in a country or empire that's like Nazi Germany. And so because of Tanya's, magic abilities, because they got, even though this is like, if like modern warfare, they use these mages, in the air and things, and they fly and they got guns and they shoot, man, they shoot with bullets and bullets fly off because they got, but Tanya's special because Tanya can harness magical abilities through the use of words, but more so basically through words of prayer. We just say it like that because of the simple fact that the guy was like an atheist and he didn't care, he didn't believe in God and stuff like. Oh, and so basically the guy like figured anti the evil right was like, oh really? So the only way you're gonna be able to amplify your power is if you basically pray to me, So you got time, you be like, hallowed be thy name, oh Lord, pray for those sinners, and things, bow, and then you see like things go on. Good series though, love it. But yeah, man, it's like that. You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, that's Tanya the Evil. But case in point. But I learned Battle Canine through a bunch of documentaries and things like that. So you know, um, good battle though, good battle. But with Scipio the Younger, you know what I'm talking about. I'll put this, but Scipio the Younger, you know what I'm talking about. It's basically the younger is the one on the right side, you know. But with him, he learns from basically not only his father's mistakes, but the Roman mistake. And he studies Hannibal's tactics to the point where it doesn't work for him. He actually innovates and things like that. He's able to gain back territory. And things. His campaign of Spain, he retakes Spain, or Hispania at that time, all of it, under Hannibal's nose. And also, they ended up killing Hasdrubal, you know what I'm talking about, and swarming him as he was retreating, and then cutting off his head and sending it back to Hannibal. But like I said, Hannibal doesn't do that to Roman generals, but they do that to Carthage. But it is what it is in that sense, and it's going to be basically Scipio the Younger that he's going to be fighting at the Battle of Zama, which is in Carthage, so the Battle of Zama, right now. One thing you gotta understand is that the Carthaginian Senate didn't support Hannibal's campaign, but when the Romans come and invade Carthage again, you know what I'm talking about. They had, Hannibal, save us, Hannibal, save us. In that sense, But Hannibal knows, in the sense that this is a losing fight. In the sense, this battle's gonna be lost, because he knows that he doesn't have well-trained veteran elephants, and his army is practically reset, And another important point is that the Numidian cavalry will maybe the bulk of the Numidian cavalry, because I don't know why they say that the Numidian cavalry was there, but actually Numidia, we're just gonna say not the Numidian cavalry, but the Numidians ended up allying with Rome. And they allied with Rome because, as my mom used to always say, there's supposed to be a marriage proposal. The king at the time, Massinissa, he wanted to marry a Carthaginian princess, and the Carthaginians said no. And because of that, he said he wanted that. My mom was like, he wanted Well, I ain't gonna say what. But yeah, he wanted that woman. They said no, and he ended up joining the Romans, which was the most, which was look, Carthage messed up when they got the Numidians to join the Romans, you know. But yeah, man, that's what happens, you know. Um, so they so they already know that it well, at least Hannibal knows the battle's gonna be lost, you know. So if you look at this picture of Zama, you can see that the elephant's in the front, right? And so the elephants are supposed to charge, but the thing is that the Romans are hip to, elephants, and so they just, shift to the side or whatever, and for the elephants to pass. So the elephants are really non-effective. You know what I'm talking about? Um, and then you got the Numidians on basically I would say the right side and things like that, and Mansanisa, and it's like it's not going to be good, you know. But they lose that battle. They lose that battle, and basically Carthage is done for. You know what I'm talking about? Not a good it wasn't a good political move at all, but they wanted to really stifle the market power from rising up, because there would have been a lot of changes if you ask me. There would have been a lot of changes, because one thing about that family, they sort of know, one, they can get the job done. Two, they know they can't really trust or rely on the Carthaginian Senate because Godfather, right? Godfather Part Two. Ray Tangeli is basically talking to Michael, ask for the Rosado brothers to get laid low. He's like, Michael, I don't have, you're up in the Sierras, and you're drinking what the hell is he drinking, Cheech? Champagne cocktails, and you wanna tell me how to run my family. You know what I'm talking about? Now I don't got your brains for big deals, but this is a street thing. It's basically that thing, right? The Carthaginians, they can make money, and they're good traders, and these senators, they know how to make money, but this is war, and this is a street thing. And they ain't paying attention, they ain't street dudes, you know what I'm talking about. you know but yeah, um and so to quell that, they basically seal their own fate, you know what I'm saying, and things of that nature. And even though basically Hannibal loses, he loses that battle, he still wants to fight. But the Carthaginian Senate, they don't want to fight. That's the thing. There's disunity, Whereas you have one person that's probably, one general that's probably committed. You have a political body that's not committed. You know what I'm saying? And so that becomes another issue. So after this battle, they ready to sue for peace. So let's get to these terms, huh? We got terms. Let's get to these terms. So in this condition of peace, right? They're going to have to lose Iberia or Spain and other territories to Rome. That includes Mauritania. Well, it wasn't called Mauritania probably at that time, but Numidia, Libya, everything on the mainland, basically. Now they got to pay 10,000 talents of silver for over 50 years. Their navy will be limited to 10 ships, and that's only to defend against pirates. That immaculate port, naval port. Now you only get to have 10 ships. And they are forbidden from raising an army without Rome's permission. And they agreed to those terms, man. That's all I can say. They agree to those terms like quickly. They just do. They agree to those terms. Hannibal is chased out of Carthage, and he goes basically to Turkey and Greece, and he basically lives like a mercenary. As a mercenary, not general but admiral, because he's basically a naval admiral at this point, not used on land but at sea. you know and when he goes to Turkey, well, was considered Turkey at the time, and the king um is about to hand him over to the Romans, because that's what they want. They want they keep on going after Hannibal, in a sense. You know what I'm talking about? And always asking for him to be basically extradited back to Rome so they can take him. And you know, Hannibal's old now. He's like, man, I'd rather die. So he takes poison and kills himself. He lives longer than Scipio, though. Scipio the younger. He lives longer than him, though, but a year longer. But that's what happens with Hannibal and whatnot. These sound like American terms, bruh. You want to say, well, who you think they learned it from? Just pay attention. Most modern states idolize who? Greece, Rome. even even the Germans, who they idolize? Rome. Those two states. That's why I remember saying, that's why it was like, when you have, Euros talking about Vikings, and I was like, man, the only people that really was talking about Celts and Vikings were really white supremacists. All the other ones was all about Greece and Rome and learning Latin and Greek and all this for centuries. But it is what it is. It's their mother culture. Well, I wouldn't say mother culture, but I will say it's their I want to say like slave master. You can't call Rome their mother culture, because I mean, these landmasses had people there before Rome was even around, but it was the influencing dominant occupation of, you know what? It's their colonizers' culture. That's it. That's how we can look. That's it. It's the culture of their colonizer. That's what we gonna say. They just identify with their colonizer. Who did I say that? Yeah, I did say that. They just identified with their colonizer. Because that's what they did. And that's what the Romans did. They colonized those places. You know what I'm talking about? And that's all. You can't say that Rome is the mother culture of Britain, because Britons were already there. And then you have Wales, and they got their own language. And then you got tribes like the Iceni Boudica. Iceni, and then you got the Scots, Scotia, and and then like if you go to France, you got Gaul and the Averni versus get. Oh, see, things like that. You go to Germania, you got those things. All those tribes. So you can't. That's why you can't say. But that's the the parent culture of their colonizer that they agree with, because not all of them are Italians or Greeks. But that was the colonizer that gave them a lot, especially in language, because all of them take from that dang on Latin like it ain't nothing. But it is what it is. Rome for every aspect of their culture. Yep. So You have that, right? You have those type of terms. You know what I'm saying? You really have those type of terms. And so, you know, but that ain't the last one. You get a third Punic War, right? So, and what's interesting that is that you never find out there's a third Punic War, but that third Punic War is so short or whatever, and things like that. Like um, what happens is that Numidia has an issue with Carthage, and because of that, Carthage raises an army to defend against Numidia, but Rome, Rome basically, you know what I'm talking about, um, put in that clause like, oh, you raised an army, now we're going to war. You know what I'm talking about? So that's what happens, you know, and because of that, um, they laid siege to Carthage. But before that, I think it's hold on, is it Mago or Hasdrubal? Even Hasdrubal goes back to it's got to be Hasdrubal. It's got to be Hasdrubal. Um, he goes and invades Italy, and he wins, but ends up failing, and that's when they killed him. You know, or is it Mago? I get them so confused sometimes. But yeah. But then you have this great saying, Carthago delenda es, or delenda es Carthago, which means Carthage must be destroyed. It's basically is a rallying cry and a political propagandized entity, if you ask me, because this basically unites all of Rome against Carthage, even during the Second Punic War. You know, Carthage must be destroyed, you know, and they unite against that. And that's what makes them fight so hard. You win this great, then that's why Barbaro says that. You don't know how to explore the great victory. Instead, you rallying them to the cause. You know what I'm talking about? Did Hannibal have songs to pass on his legacy too? Um, how can I say this? It is said he does. He had like one son. We know he was married, but and he married an Iberian woman. Now it's said that he has a son. Um, but even that son ends up dead. But I mean, it's like some scholars say he did, some scholars say he did. You know, you don't find much info on this son. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you know, it just depends on what scholar you know you read or anything like that. So that happens, and that comes from also that whole quote comes from Cato, Cato the Elder. You know, just so you know, and just in case, you know. Um, so you know, unity. You know, in that 14 keys, unity develops consonants when aiming towards a single target as a group. The group itself does not require assimilation of duty between all members, but in fact, is a medley of diversified forces working in collusion with one another. You know, so that's from 14 keys. And then you see the issue with Carthage. Not everybody is working the same. Everybody's going against each other, Numidians and Libyans. Everybody ain't on one accord, and it's not a medley of people all going for the one goal. Whereas with Rome, it is that. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, mind you, it's just that little boot with that thigh boot. I like to call it thigh boot because the boot is you know that Louisiana. Um but that thigh boot, that's all they have right now, you know, and that's before um they become this grand superpower. Now, mind you, they become this grand superpower with this fight, you know, with this war or these three wars. You know, and also, you know, they lay siege and completely destroy Carthage. That not much is left. You know, and those inhabitants that survived are sold into slavery. You know, so that's what happens. When it came to that. In that sense, and because of Scipio the Younger um, achievements, he is now called Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus. Now, mind you, the Publius Cornelius Scipio, Scipio, um, is actually that was his full name, and that was his father's name as well. So that's why Scipio the Elder and Scipio the Younger, because they both had the same name, because there is no junior at this time, you could say. So Publius Cornelius Scipio was his given name, and then they add on Africanus to his name. So when Chief is, latest podcast, and he has that conversation with that woman, and he tells her that Africa came from, the Roman general Scipio Africanus. Now you see where he got it from. Also, you gotta understand that Scipio Africanus also, he becomes consul of Rome twice. So not only was he a Roman general, he's also a Roman consul, which is basically uh it's before the time of Caesars. So you had two consuls. So he becomes one of them, you know. But yeah, he also becomes a Roman consul, but yeah, that's where he gets it from, Africanus. And thus, because he has the name, Scipio Africanus, you get the continent. Well, first, before that, you get the Roman province of Africa. And then you get the continent known as Africa. Now, okay. No, so now, who are the Africans? Who are the Africans? Trick question, right? I bet you it's a trick questions is, who are Africans? you know. But, actually, the Africans are the Afar, or the Affair. Now, this is a Libyan tribe in the Tunisia area, right? And they're also called, the Massilis, or the Afri, or the Afari Khani, or Frexus by Romans. And they are said to have crossed um, the Red Sea by the way of Ethiopia, and they are said to have Ethiopian likeness. And some accounts would call Hamilcar Barker Hamilcar the Affair. So now you understand that, well, you could also say Afrik, but the Afrik, or the Afari Khani, were actually a people, a people that lived in Libya, and was like a Libya tribe that came across the Red Sea by way of Ethiopia. Mm, mm. Like, I Lo did not write this. I can't make that up. I can't make that up. That that bogged my mind when I read it. It's like, huh? The what? But yes. So now you know who the Afar are. Or the so if any we'll say that for another show. But yes. So those are the real Africans. Those fighting people that are used by the Carthaginians and the Moorish people, you know, that are called the affair that live in Libya and things like that. That's where they get the name from. This tribe, because there are many tribes among the Libyans, but that's one of them. And they're the ones that inhabited Tunis at that time, or what was called Tunisia at that time. So how you gonna be a how you gonna be a South African and you ain't well and you ain't even that far, because mind you, these people, this is a bloodline. This is a bloodline, and it hails from a lineage that ain't even indigenous to the North African or Tunisian region. So you already know where they come from. They crossed the Red Sea. There's only one people I know that have crossed the Red Sea more than once. So I'm just saying. And they weren't no Arabs. But they look like Ethiopians. Yeah. Okay. But yes. But they still called it, so Africa was a Roman province. So to call a whole continent that is the name given by a colonizer in a sense. You know what I'm talking about. So yeah. But I just had to put that out there, just so because I know they ain't gonna tell you. So, somebody gotta tell you, because the affair are still going to be integral in another invasion. Don't we know what that invasion is? 7-Eleven. 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 Yes, it's hey, the Moors, hey. That's why I call that dang on invasion. I'm talking about, Hannibal's revenge. We coming back. So it's gonna be those same tribes all around, from the Numidia to the Mari and all of them. They're going to come back up to Spain. They coming for it. Well, no, say that, but yeah, that's also what happens. They go by a different name, like most, but it's still those same people, But yeah, so in the 14 keys it says, names, titles, define forces. Once we are able to name a force, we are able to gain knowledge of it. It is through this knowing that we are able to gain a master of it. We cannot command that which we have no knowledge of. Labeling ourselves as a step towards knowing ourselves and ultimately ruling ourselves. So, when we call ourselves, Africans or anything like that, we don't gain mastery of it because we didn't name ourselves that. Same thing with, Negro, colored, black, just saying, Moreno, none of these names you named yourself, or called yourself. Somebody called you that, and because of that, they have mastery over who? You. Or mastery over what you think is your culture or things like that. It's 2022. Why are we still calling Africa? Africa? More importantly, why do those on the continent call themselves that, like it's a country, and they act like you don't know where they come from? That used to bug me. Like, I had this homie, he used I'm from West Coast Africa. I'm like, there's no such thing. Just say it. Just say you're from Nigeria. I know where it's at. Just say it. He used to kill me with that. Like, they never want to tell you where they from, but it's like, just say you're from there. I mean, I know, You got your different states. I get it. But just ballpark. Just say you're from Nigeria. You don't need to give me, the runaround. Just say you're from there. Same thing. It's a big place. You just can't. Just say, just say, oh, from here. This part of Africa, and it's like there's so many countries. It ain't like Europe. you know. So yeah, man. So that's something to question, or that's something we should have had that talk long ago, very long ago. Just saying, you know what I'm talking about? Oh, I'm not black, I'm Latino. you know, ain't none of y'all, well, so it's just a talk. What does that mean? None of y'all come from Latinum. Like you literally don't come from, Latinum. That's where it comes from. I mean, that's a region in Italy. That's where Rome is. Just saying, just saying, Latinum ain't in Spain or Portugal or France, like, but yeah, some things to think about. But yeah, so in case I cannot have said it any other way, there's a great scholar who could say it better than me, you know what I'm talking about. So that's what we're gonna get into. So yeah, I came with even video clips this time, So now I'm gonna play both of them. So let's see.
Right here on the dotted line.
See, originally, Africans did not define themselves by continent, but more by regions. Africa as a continent began to be defined by foreigners. In North Africa, the Romans had a province called Afrique. The word became Africa.
The history, both known.
Did you hear that? Hey, Dr. Clark can say it better than me. That already lets you know what this is. So, But moving on, we gonna get to another clip which basically gives the summary of everything, some of all things of this whole campaign, of these wars and things like that. So let's get straight into it,
A powerful black state in North Africa had imperial ambitions of its own. By the 3rd century BC, its forces had crossed the Mediterranean and established a large province in Spain. The military commander of Carthage had apprehensions about his Roman neighbors and warned his son to keep a watchful eye.
Hannibal's father, he would point across the ocean and said, there's some evil people over there. We better bring the war to them before they bring it to us. Hannibal never forget.
Hannibal is only 26 when he takes charge of the army. He launches an audacious military adventure, leading his men and their elephants over the Pyrenees Mountains into France, then pointing them across the Alps, boldly, toward Rome itself. Heavy casualties, overextended supply lines, and defection of allies drive Hannibal off the soil of southern Europe. He retreats back home to Carthage.
The Romans have made a mission, almost a cult, out of the destruction of Carthage. They would meet each other in the mornings. Good morning, Roman citizen. Carthage must be destroyed. Yes, of course, Roman citizen. Carthage must be destroyed.
Rome's legions clash with Hannibal near Zama. His troops are defeated. Hannibal is sent into exile. His once mighty nation becomes another colony of Rome and an administrative center for their empire.
Now, the Roman Empire internally was not very rich. Africa became the breadbasket for the Roman Empire. And except for Africa, the Roman Empire would not have been able to sustain itself. Now, the Roman presence in North Africa is going to force into being one of the great events in human history. Roman taxation, Roman oppression would cause people to turn to new gods and question old gods.
Okay. So when you basically learn that, you understand how big, this whole fleece was. It gave the idea of Roman taxation. And you have to understand when Dr. Claus talks about Africa being the breadbasket, he's talking about Kemet. Because you gotta understand something, Rome did not, um, have wheat like that. They had to get that from Egypt, which is what I told this to some. Yeah, I told this. I told this to the community yesterday during study session. You know how Egypt or Kemet was able to keep at least the Ptolemaic dynasty. Because remember, this is the Ptolemaic dynasty. They were able to keep their king or their pharaoh. And this is one of the reasons why they were able to do that, because they was able to basically supply Rome with wheat and bread and things like that, so they can have their bread and cheese, whatever, whatever they eat. But we know bread, give them their bread, they wine, they cheese, you know what I'm talking about. But it's not just that, it's also Carthage, because they getting a lot of money out of Carthage after this war. Just saying. You know what I'm talking about? Um, so yeah, Roman taxation for sure, man. But if you understand that, if you understand Rome, there's something else you can understand that dawned on me today, man. Like this morning, I thought about it. I was like, you know what? If you can understand that, you can understand La Cosa Nostra. You can understand La Cosa Nostra if you understand the Romans, or if you understand the Romans in medieval Italy. You can understand La Cosa Nostra. You can understand the Camorra. You can understand the Andromeda. You can understand all of that if you understand Rome, medieval Italy, and all of that. I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. You got these dang thugs, these gangsters, asking for taxation and trying to protect storefronts and things like that. Yeah, that makes perfect sense now. you know, um, but also um, understand, that even with Roman occupation and Pax Romana, Roman peace, which is what it is, you're still going to have um, rebellion against Rome, not just among Israel and the Hebrews, but also with the Moors and the Libyans and the people still in this region. You know what I'm saying? Didn't cover it because different different time, but you have the Jugurthine or the Jugurtha. He's called Jugurtha. Wars. You know. Also, because like I say, these people, they fight so good that they're going to be used for the Dacian Wars. Like say mercenaries. But we're not gonna call them mercenaries. Not in Rome, we don't. We call them what? Roman auxiliaries. You ain't part of the legion, but you are a Roman auxiliary. Look, that just makes you an honorary Roman legionary. You ain't one of us, but we'll put you in. You can still be an army. A Roman army. You just ain't part of the legion. you know. But it is what it is. You know what I'm talking about? But that does happen, and you're gonna see, Roman rebellions in that region. Like I said, more than once, but not just in that region, but also in other regions around that area, which we know, and also even though we call this place Africa, remember this is just northern everything pretty much that Carthage held. The Romans still couldn't go past the Sahara. And when they tried, what happened? They got sent right back. so, so why would you name? He's like, why would you name a region that wasn't even maybe 1/10 of the entire continent? Like, and you couldn't go all the way. They didn't go all the way. They didn't go past what they called the dark continent. Because nobody, that's why it remained dark so long. Nobody went down there. You go down there, you ain't gonna come back. You go down there, you ain't gonna come back. You thought they fought, them coastal people fought hard. The one in the interiors, they don't play. They don't see you back at all. Yes. Yes. Yeah, but Sister Maria, Roman auxiliaries, yes. So that is what happens, with that, and how outsourcing goes wrong, whereas you could have probably used your economic practices and for great expansion. Because to me, it's like Carthage literally could have went, well, not saying that they did, but they could have expanded all the way into Britain. I believe that. Not saying that they didn't go. I'm just saying, or none of us didn't go. I'm just saying, as a empire mindset, it could have went all the way into Britain. Just saying. Just saying, it could have. I mean, you trading with them anyway. You could have went all the way in there. But yeah, things like that, man. I mean, just things to think about. Just things to think about. Just the thought. Just the thought. But you know what I'm talking about. Good things. With that, that's the end of the presentation. You know what I'm talking about. But we are not done. We are not done. Changing plans because of the recent podcast by Chief. We switching it up. He sent out a request. He tagged me in. Tag me in. Tag me. Okay. He tagged me in. And he wants me to talk about British colonialization in India. So, watch, the movie RRR. It's not going to be a movie breakdown, but we're going to talk about British occupation, especially with everything that's going down. So that's next strong, right? Then, like I say, he had more than one request. Then that following strong, we're going to talk about King Leopold and the colonization of the Congo. You got to do it like them Southern boys do it. Emphasize that K. Said the Congo. I can't do it about, but that Congo. But yeah, Probably they probably flick. That's probably it. And I don't flip my tongue when I say it, you know. But yeah, so we gonna do that. So I ain't gonna really talk about because for me it's like there's a bunch of movies you can talk about with when it comes to Indian rebellion in a sense with um in Bollywood, you know. But we're gonna talk about British occupation, and then we're gonna talk about occupation from Belgium and the Congo, man. So that's the following two strongs, you know what I'm talking about. But so that's what we getting into. But what do you say? Give thanks. You do the impossible and make history fun. Looking for. I don't know how I make history fun, man. I just be making jokes. Like for me, maybe because it's the fact that history's sort of like a living thing for me, so I can able like picture things in my head and then bam, it comes in as a joke, you know, like oh yeah, it's like that, you know, like um when people like talk about you know certain uh lore and things and say it's based off of you know European history and medieval history. I'm like, oh, so y'all don't want to talk about that medieval history where we was running things and we was all around making schools and stuff and civilizing people, huh? Well, we was enslaving people too. Oh, we don't want to talk about that, huh? Oh, yeah, we ain't gonna talk about that, huh? Yeah, yeah let's leave that out. That's y'all probably don't even know that. Yeah. Yeah, man, we profit from the slave trade too. And once upon a time, why do you think the Slavs are called Slavs? But it is what it is. That goes into it, so you just got to read about it. Or the Slavic nations and things like that. You know, they actually had a name at one point in time, but I mean, hey, you know, that was big business. You know, but then we'll talk about that. But you know, it is what it is. Not glorifying it or anything like that. It's just to say we were there and we did some things. Some things good, some things bad. You know, that's what any culture or history. You know, they get some things right, they get some things wrong, depending. You know, but it's all depending on the point in time and situation and things like that. You know, sometimes we try to judge uh these time periods on modern norms, and that's just lunacy. You can't really do that. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't make sense. You know, it's like it's like one thing, you know, at least modern Europeans do is that they try to chastise those past times, especially when it comes to age gap marriages, without having a historic reference to say you do know that the life expectancy, you know, for a very long time didn't probably last by 30, 40 years. You know, if you live to like 70, you were an anomaly. You know, you know, life expectancy for a child, you know, depending on the disease, you know, you may not make it, you know, past 5. You know, who knows? Palsy, cholera, you know, smallpox, something to get you. Literally. Black death, I mean, can't make this up. You know what I'm talking about? I literally can't make this up. So when you have that, um, it is what it is. You know what I'm talking about? It really is what it is. But that's all. So give thanks, everybody. And I will see y'all next strong. Peace.